So this is the ending, right, that we will add to the root of any regular Spanish verb of the group that ends with AR. And the other groups of verbs, ER and IR, right, although they are slightly different, but it's almost the same, right? So if you make a mistake and you confuse the ending, right, and you add the ending of a verb that ends in AR and you add it to one that ends in ER, right, different groups of verbs, it will be incorrect, of course, but it will be perfectly recognizable, right? So you can still communicate easily that way. It will be fine. We say, yo amaré, for I will love. Tú amarás. Él or ella amará. Nosotros amaremos. Vosotros amaréis. Ustedes amarán. Ellos amarán. Okay? Now let's take a look at future number 2. This future is almost identical to the English future tense, right? Because here we have the verb in infinitive, okay? Like here, we see the verb in infinitive, and here we have an auxiliary verb, right? Same as in English. In English it is the verb will, and here it is a verb to go, right? The verb to go is the verb ir. Ir. This means to go. This is the verb to go in infinitive. However, since it is an irregular verb, one of the most irregular verbs in Spanish, therefore, when we conjugate it, you can see that it's totally different from the verb in infinitive, right? So even the root of the verb has changed completely, right? Another thing is, in Spanish, there is one different conjugation for every personal pronoun, every subject pronoun, okay? So therefore, here also the conjugation of the verb to ir changes for every subject pronoun, unlike the English language where it's I will go, you will go, we will go, right? Will is always the same, right? Another difference is that we add this word a. That this one-letter word means to, right? To. So I will love, or better, this would be literally the same as saying I'm going to love, right? You are going to love. He is going to love. We are going to love. Okay? It's so this would be a word-by-word translation, yeah. So in English we can say we have these two ways of saying the future. I will love or I am going to love, right? So in Spanish we have these two futures. Yo amaré or yo voy a amar. Tú vas a amar. Él va a amar. Nosotros vamos a amar. Vosotros vais a amar. Ustedes van a amar. And ellos van a amar. So you can see that what changes here, the conjugation that changes is the auxiliary verb only, right? In Spanish, when we use an auxiliary verb, it's just the auxiliary verb that is conjugated, right? Later, the main verb, as in this case is the verb amar, it always goes in infinitive, right? And don't forget that we need to use the word to. In Spanish, the word a, okay? I'm going to love. Right? So we have these two ways of speaking in future tense in Spanish, right? Probably for English speakers, this one will be the easiest of all, because you just memorize the conjugation of the verb ir, the auxiliary verb, and then whatever verb you want to pass to future tense, you just leave it in infinitive, right? Now let's take a look at gerundio. Gerundio, or in English, present continuous, right? In English, present continuous uses an auxiliary verb that is a verb to be, right? I am eating. You are talking, right? The verb to be. In Spanish, the auxiliary verb is the verb estar, right? The verb in infinitive is like this, estar, right? So again, you can see that only the auxiliary verb goes conjugated, right? And the verb amar repeats itself here, right? So in English, the present continuous, we have the verb adds the ending ing, right? For example, I am eating, you are talking, right? We add ing. In Spanish, the verbs add ando for the verbs that end in AR, and for the other verbs they add the ending endo, right? Endo. So we have ando, and endo for the gerundio or present continuous. The verbs ending in AR, like amar, they add the ending ando. So amando, here we have the root of the verb, and here we have the ending ando, right? So we say, yo estoy amando. Yo estoy amando. I am loving. Tú estás amando. Tú estás amando. You are loving, right? Él está, sorry, here I made a mistake. Él está amando. Okay? Él está amando. Nosotros estamos amando. Vosotros estáis amando. Ustedes están amando. And ellos están amando. Right? So this is the ending. Here we have the ending of the auxiliary verb, the verb estar. Since estar is somewhat irregular, right? That's why you can see that the ending for the first person adds a y here, right? While a regular verb will just add a letter O, right? But for the others, you can see it's quite regular. There is no difference. We have the root of the verb estar, right? Which here, the root, and here we have the proper ending, yeah? So it is, except for the first person of the singular, the verb is quite regular, okay? So now we will see the imperative tense. We have imperative tense for affirmative and for negative. In the imperative, since it makes no sense for giving orders to oneself, we omit the first person, the person I or yo. So we begin with tú, with you. For the affirmative, it is ama tú. Ama tú means you love, an imperative, giving an order, right? Ame él or ella. Amemos nosotros. Amad vosotros. Amen ustedes. Amen ellos. And for the negative, we will say, no ames, don't love, okay? It's an order. This is no ames tú. It's for the